hey, let's work on this before we get to our actual assignment. I want to make sure that you've got a solid understanding of how this works, and I don't want to do the work on the page with you because there aren't enough examples for me to help you with one and then you still do one similar to it. So that's why I am just going to do these with you, and then when you get to those on your assignment, you'll know what to do. We will write each of these as a percent. Percent means per 100. This is read as 28 hundredths. That's the value of it. 28 hundredths is easily 28 per 100. 28 per 100, 28 per 100. That's what they both mean. Essentially, you change decimals to percent by multiplying them by 100. And what that does is takes that decimal and moves it 2 places to the right. When you multiply anything by 200, you move the decimal that means 2 places. If you multiply by 10, you move the decimal 1 place. If you multiply by 1,000, that's got 3 zeros, you move it 3 places. 2 8/10. This is obviously bigger than that because that has no whole number. This has a whole number. When we move the decimal 2 places, 1, 2, we end up with 280%. This right here, you move it 2 places, it's 90 hundredths, so it's obviously 90%. 95 hundredths is 95%. Now look at this one, 0.9. That is not 9%. If you move the decimal 2 places, 1, 2, it's 90%. The value of 0.9 and the value of 0.90 are exactly the same. They're both 9/10 and 0 ones, 9/10 and 0 ones. Now with fractions, there are 2 ways you can do it. You can use your calculator and put in 2 divided by 5. Or you can, of course, write it out, long division, 2 divided by 5. The other option, which is what we're going to do, is change these to hundredths. Since percent is per 100, if we change these to per 100, then it's easy to go from fraction to percent. So I will do that here. Remember, you can also use a calculator and do 1 divided by 4. So 5 times 20, 2 times 20 is 40. 40 per 100, 40 100ths is 40%. 4 times 25, 1 times 25 would make 25. 25%. Moving down, we're going to write these as fractions. I have mostly decimals, and then I have 2%. There we go. I've got, the key is how many digits are after the decimal. There are 2 digits after the decimal, so my fraction will have 2 zeros. 2 digits, 2 zeros. 28 hundredths. There's 1 digit after the decimal, so my denominator will have 1 0. 5/10, 5/10. We've got 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal, so I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 zeros. 365. Again, we have 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal. 1, 2, 3, 9. Now we've got a whole number. You've got your decimal, 2 digits after the decimal. So we've got 2 zeros and a 4. Another whole number. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 digits after the decimal. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. 8, 4, 1, 9. Now, these are, I think it's really easy to go from percent to fraction. This is per 100, 93 per 100, so you write 93 per 100. This is 6% 6%, 6 per 100, 6 over 100. Now, the one other thing that you need to do when you change decimals and percents to fractions, especially percents, you're going to reduce. And some of these can be reduced. This can be reduced. 4 goes into both of them. I'm going to reduce it by 4. 28 divided by 4 is 7. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 28 hundredths written in fraction form is 7/25. That's your final answer. This is true also, but this is the simplest form, and this is how you want to write it. 5/10, well, that's 1/2. Reduced by 5. 365 divided by 1,000. I'm not exactly sure what the best number to reduce by, but I'm going to start by 5. That would be 73. Make sure. 5 goes into 36 7 times. 1 left over. Yeah, 73. 5 goes into 10 2 times, 200. Okay, that's reduced. 9 1,000ths, it's in simplest form. I can't reduce that. I can reduce this. 2 400ths, I can reduce the fraction by 4. So I'm going to make sure I get my whole number in there. Now let me reduce the fraction. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 2 400ths, written as a fraction in simplest form, is 2 1/25. 9, yeah, that doesn't reduce. I can already tell you that. Yay. That does not reduce. This does reduce. You can reduce it by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 100 divided by 2 is 50. So 6% in simplest fraction form is 3/50. There's one other part I want to go over with you, and that is to remind you of this. The big question when doing all things percent is, what is the percent of a number? That is really all you need to know. It's incredible how this works with everything. What is the percent of a number? Well, we're going to do 3 different kinds of situations where you're asking for a different one of these in each. And I will once again explain to you how this works. Make sure you don't forget. What is percent of number? I got 17 correct of 20 items on a test. What percent is correct? She wants to know her grade. So, percent of number. So, what is percent of number? So, the whole number is 20. I want to know the percent. 17 is what percent of 20? So this is what I don't know. I'm going to say, I don't want to use T. I'll put C for correct. Now I have an equation. 17 equals 20 times C. I'll write 20C. Now I'll divide both sides by 20. That cancels out. Now I could leave this in fraction form, but it wants percent, so I need to go to decimal form. Therefore, I will just divide it out like this. 17 divided by 20, 0.85. 0.85, that's written as a decimal. 85%. 17 is 85% of 20. Moving down here, find 8% of 100. So of 100, that's the number I'm thinking of. Not 100, of 400. Of 400, find 8%. So I know I want 8%. And this is what I don't know. N for number. Now before you can actually compute, you don't actually do any sort of computations with percent form. You've got to change it to a decimal. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a decimal. 8%, I move the decimal back 2 places. That is 8% in decimal form. Now I'm going to write it out. N equals 0.08 times 400. Get my little calculator. 0.08 times 400. 32. N equals 32. Back to my question. 32 is 8% of 400. Finally, bottom one, 7 is 28% of what? So we know 7 is 28% of, that's what we don't know. So this time, we don't know our final number, the whole number. Before I can compute it, I need to change the percent to a decimal. This is 0.28. As a percent, it was 28, and I moved the decimal 2 places. So my equation is 7 equals 0.28 times n. Now to solve for n, I'll divide both sides by 0.28. That cancels out, and I'm left with n equals, we'll divide 7 divided by 0.28. 7 divided by 0.28. 25. 25. N equals 25. 7 is 28% of 25. You see how this works for all 3 types? No matter which 2 pieces of information you know, you use this form to find out the other. We'll use this form in algebra. We're doing 2 together on this page before I send you off on your way. Start with number 7. What is 65% of 40? Well, I set this up so that we can use this with that question. What is 65% of 40? What is 65% of 40? This is what we don't know. I will change this to a decimal. And I'll copy down what I have to be an equation. N equals 0.65 times 40. This really isn't much of an equation, is it? Because I have a variable here and terms here. So all I need to do is multiply that out, and I have an answer. 0.65 times 40. 26. N equals 26. Back to my question. What is 65% of 40? $26. A. 26. I feel like it should have a percent sign after it. That's weird. Number 11. Last one. Together, that is. Christina earned $27 babysitting. She spent 65% on clothes. How much money did Christina spend on clothes? She earned $27 and spent 65 of it. We want to know what is 65% of 27. What is 65% of 27? I'm going to say C for clothes because she spent it on clothes. Oh, look at this. Of. There we go. Now it looks right. Oh, this is very similar to the one above it. I didn't realize that. C equals, we'll change that to decimal form, 0.65, like that one. 0.65 times 27. How much money did she spend on clothes? 0.65 times 27. $17.55. C equals $17.55. Now let's look and see if we have the answer. I hope so. If not, I got a problem. Yes, we have the answer. It's C. There we go. All right, so you have everything you need to finish this.